So here's what we're gonna do, actually.
You're taking him out?
Yeah.
Who is it? Is that Favre?
That's Rodgers. Fuck
Oh.
Favre. Fucking asshole.
I actually meant Rodgers. I don't know why I said Favre. Welcome back, Rough Draft Research.
Welcome back.
We're here. Yeah.
What's up?
Hello.
Another week of the NFL in the books, week 4. So we're here to have our reactions, our roundups, our multi-TD madness. We're going to follow this format, like we said last week, until about week 5, and then we're going to start kind of leaning more into projections and stuff. But for now, let's just freaking get into it, man. Rookie roundup. Yeehaw, let's go.
Woohoo. Yeah, rookie roundup. You know the drill. We've got our no-shows, our promising usage, and the possible studs. Spoiler alert, there may be another name in that possible studs category this week.
Nice.
But let's start where we always do with the no-shows. Speaking of our studs, one of our studs did have a no-show this week. Drake London ends the game with 2 catches for 17 yards. He ended the game with 7 targets, so the upside is still there for him. But it's pretty disappointing to see a week like this after last week when it kind of felt like he kind of came alive and really showed who he was. And there even seemed like there was a higher percentage of people starting him this week this also. And so I think he kind of put a bad first impression out there for a lot of people. But he's still a stud. Just a bad week. Nothing. What can you do? People are gonna have bad weeks. Jamar Chase had like 3 in a row. So,
Ooh, shots fired.
I think he got hit with one of those shots.
Kenneth Walker had his highest carry total and his highest yardage this week. Unfortunately, those numbers are 8 and 29.
Whew.
So just hasn't really hit the ground running there in Seattle. He got the late start due to the injury, and obviously Rashad Penny's there. You'd still like to see more efficiency out of a Doak Walker award winner. 8 carries for 29 yards is not awesome.
Yeah, tell James Washington that. We're still
What the fuck,
fair.
dude?
Hopefully he'll be able to turn it around. Obviously it's early, but that's not what you want to see for the second RB taken in most rookie drafts this season. Speaking of another guy who you want to see more out of, Treylon Burks only has 3 targets this week. That's 2 weeks in a row with less than 5 targets. And we're seeing an increased usage out of Woods, who is now taken over as the target leader for the Titans. Is that concerning to you, or is it just kind of like rookie ramp up for Burks? Like, what do you think's going on here?
Honestly, I just don't really trust the Titans, man.
That's
a
fair.
lot of it's got to do with that. I think that he's kind of still getting a little banged up, isn't he?
That's fair too.
He's got
yeah.
the old turf toe going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's just one of those situations where I think if they want to be competitive, they've got to make it work with him. They're coming into it early bye at week 6. I think he can come out of that and kind of hit the ground running. So I'm not giving up. I never had like the highest hopes. He wasn't a guy I was targeting in redraft leagues, and it kind of felt like a project, and it still does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. We'll actually talk about Burks a little bit more later. So, but yeah, I like what you said. I think we just got to see it work. I mean, they traded AJ Brown to get this guy, so they need to figure out how to make it work. Another no-show, actually the last no-show of the day. Christian Watson has his first touchdown, but he only has 3 targets and 1 carry. So, they're trying to get him involved. Aaron Rodgers was talking this week about he's in 2014 when Devante Adams was a rookie, he wasn't targeting Devante a lot, but he could tell that he was getting open all the time, and that was what made him realize, like, all right, we need to work this guy in. We got to figure this out. He said the same thing about Christian Watson. He said it doesn't happen as often as Devante Adams, basically, but like there's this kid's getting open, so they're going to start using him. But it is just kind of a bummer to only see 3 targets. He did have the touchdown, look great. Romeo Dobbs out in front of him, just blocking that guy out of the way. It was really, really fun to watch, but you're not really excited about it as a guy you probably took in the late first of your rookie drafts or early second. So, yep, those are our no-shows for the day. I'm kind of eliminating people that haven't shown up at all to this point, unless their name is fairly big, because at that point it's kind of like, yeah, they're just not affecting the roster at this point. So those are our no-shows for the week. Just 4 of them. Yeah, not super fun if you have those guys, but if you have some of these promising usage guys, you may be having a lot more fun. Romeo Dobbs, 2 weeks in a row, 8 targets and a touchdown. He's absolutely taken that role over as the number 1 wide receiver for the Packers. Alan Lazard's coming on strong, 6 catches for like 116 yards this week. But Dobbs still leads the Packers in targets with 24. And yeah, I think you're going to keep rolling with him. He's not in the stud category for me yet, but he's trending that way. Another guy who arguably should be in the stud category, but maybe take one more week. Breece Hall has finally just taken over as the main running back in New York. It was fun while it lasted, Michael Carter. Thanks for getting my hopes up at the beginning of this year. But, I mean, we all knew this was coming. Breece Hall is an electric rookie coming out of the backfield, and he can catch the ball. He had more targets than Michael Carter as well today, as well as carries. We'll get into him a little more later during our workhorse woes. But Breece Hall is finally getting that usage where he's the true number 1 there. Speaking of another guy getting true number 1 usage, Dameon Pierce, his carries went down from 20 last week, but 14. But he had 9 yards per carry this week. He looked great doing it. This may be one of the guys we end up being wrong about, because that burst that I think we all originally saw on film, I saw it this time. Again, he looks great so far. I mean, we were all kind of on the same page. He'll have an awesome rookie year, so let's see what happens after. But he looks good, man. I think it's a little undeniable as far as right now. Alec Pierce again popping off, 6 targets, 4 catches for 80 yards. It's an anemic Indianapolis offense. Little frustrating to watch, but he is starting to kind of find his rhythm there. They're taking the top off the defense with him a little bit, which is interesting. I mean, 4 catches for 80 yards. Obviously, you're averaging 20 yards a catch at that point. So yeah, that's exciting to see. Rachaad White comes out of nowhere and gets 5 targets this week. Again, we'll get into Rachaad White a little bit more later, but for right now, I just wanted to throw him out. Promising usage. Always love seeing him get 5 targets. And, for a guy that we were super high on his receiving ability, that's exactly kind of what you want. And then I think the most important promising usage, maybe not most important, but one of the most important, Kenny Pickett gets the start, the second half for the Steelers. He does throw 3 interceptions, but 2 of those I don't really think are on him, unless I'm fucked up.
No, they were.
Hey, and don't worry, we'll get into him later.
Oh, God.
But it looks like he's going to be the starter from here on out now. So we'll get to see what happens with him. But honestly, I'm good with that. The Trubisky experiment failed pretty hard to me. And Pickett was way more interesting, even if they didn't get the job done. But those are the guys I'm highlighting for promising usage this week. Any thoughts or concerns, boys?
Well, I do have a little thoughts and concerns, but that's all right. I thought it was kind of funny that Pickett had the 2 touchdowns, but a fantasy score of less than 12 points. I was like, fuck, dude, you got to really You got to really get after it to make that happen.
Yeah, that's tough.
But man, Damian Pierce is heating up, man. That
He really
average
is.
was hugely inflated by a 75
Oh, well,
yarder,
yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah,
But
obviously. But
still, the guy comes out week 1, 4 points, week 2, 8 points, 16 points in week 3. I was really hoping for a 32 this time
that's
around.
fair.
Keep the double going. But 26, we'll call it all right. It's a touchdown short of a good time.
Of a
But
32.
yeah, but I want to point out his RB15, man. I mean, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
It's real good for a
So,
guy you got in the second round, most likely.
absolutely, man. Well, I'll let you get into your stud section. I don't know.
Yeah, let's run down the studs. Chris Olave scores his first touchdown, which I thought was pretty crazy for how electric he's been so far. His targets go down, but hey, if he gets that touchdown, scores 16 points. In my opinion, Chris Olave is probably a flex starter from here on out, at the very least, if not a wide receiver two.
Wide
Um,
receiver 1 on this team, baby.
there you go. Looks great. Nothing to worry about there. Garrett Wilson almost made the no shows list. He had like 6 or 7 points. It was his worst day as a professional. Still had 6 targets, only 2 catches. So that's kind of tough. I didn't throw him in the no shows quite yet, but not a great game. Jahan Dotson scores again and just again continues to look like he's the man. He looks like he belongs in the NFL. However, I do want to point out he's only been above 5 targets once this season. And he has 4 touchdowns on 12 catches. So literally a third of his catches are touchdowns at this point, and that's just fairly unsustainable and makes him pretty touchdown dependent, which is worrisome. But hey, I would rather have a touchdown dependent guy than a guy getting 0 points. So he looks great. I'm super into him. Just wish that Carson would just throw him the ball more consistently. Um, and then the new addition, after one half with Kenny Pickett, I've seen all I needed to see. It's George Pickens. 8 catches, 8 targets, six
Let's go.
catches, 102 yards. He just looks like an animal. It seems like every catch he makes is some crazy, wild, um, nonsense catch that nobody else would have been able to make. And he just, again, just like Jahan Dotson, he looks like he belongs on an NFL field. And now he has a quarterback that's actually willing to push it downfield. So I think he gets into that possible stud category this week. What do you guys think?
Yeah. I was gonna say he's been having 70% snap share plus, but it looks like it actually means something now that Pickett's
Yeah.
in the mix. And I'll say it. I guess I was hoping for Claypool to do some stuff, keep it going,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, at this point, officially, Pickens is the wide receiver 66, and Claypool is the wide receiver 75, and that's with only one half. Kenny Pickett doing that connection thing with Pickens. So you're
Yeah.
right. I mean, it's looking good. I mean, Deontay is still awesome, but like he hasn't looked really his best, even though the
Mm-hmm.
workload is still there. So it really, I mean, the opportunity is wide open for him to just come in and start smashing it. So.
Yeah, he could absolutely end up as like the number one guy there. I mean, Deontay will always be the starter on the depth chart, I think. Maybe not always, but at least this year. But Pickens may end up leading that team in targets.
Yeah, I mean Deontay really fit the Big Ben role, and
Hmm.
it's a new vibe now. So
Yeah. Plus, I think there is something to the rookie quarterback coming in with the rookie wide receiver. They were already working with each other before all the veterans got there. They've built this relationship. And what's cooler than having the guy that just got drafted with you be your number one target? I think there is something a little to that for sure.
oh yeah, man, you hit the scene with someone and you just start scheming the big dreams and
Hmm.
stuff, and now they're like, "Fuck it, it's our time."
Plus, it's almost too easy. Pickett to Pickens. That just sounds good.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Just get
hey.
out there and pick it to Pickens. What the fuck is this? That's
That's
cool.
it. That's it for the rookie roundup. It's been a fun year so far for the rookies. Some ups and downs, but a A lot of future NFL superstars in this class, I think. Maybe superstars might be strong, but a lot of stars in this class.
Got some household names coming at us.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that Jahan thing, man, that's nuts. I mean, what a great way to start your rookie year, you know?
Yeah.
Even if the volume's not there. I mean, we talk about it year in and year out. Gabe Davis and Alan Lazard, like, these guys are real dudes and they can bail you out in a big way. And for him to just start out like that, it's
Yeah.
pretty special. It's
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
cool. But he didn't score multiple TDs this week, so
Oh
it
baby.
let me down.
On to the multi-TD madness.
Let's get this multi-TD madness worked out real quick. Yeehaw, as they say. You know, it is what it is. Sometimes it's exciting. Sometimes it's not that exciting. Last week we had just 5 guys, and it was like, all right, here's what's happening. Holy smokes, it's a little different this week. We have 13 different guys scoring multiple TDs. That is too much. That is too many. For me, you know, I need to manage my time and expectation, guys. So let's keep it to 10 max. 10 max. Woo! Anyway, what's up, man? Do we have a 3-timer on this list? Yeah, 4 weeks, 3 times. Jamal Williams.
Oh, Jesus.
Let's
He's
just
a
go
monster.
ahead and get him out there. Good job, pal. You did it. You did it. You did it. No one else is doing that. Who else has been on the list twice? Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Okay.
Jesus.
Like, these are the guys. These were the people that, you know, you're putting your season-long TD bets on. I mean, they were favorites to win this category. So let's just all keep it straight. It's not a big deal. But there are some very interesting trends going on. I don't know if you guys are watching the Indianapolis Colts, but last week, Jelani Woods, Jesus, I got some walking in there, was on the list for 2 touchdowns. And then this week, Mo Alley Cox is on the list for 2 TDs. So that's 2 weeks in a row that Indianapolis Colts have put a tight end in the end zone twice in one game. So, yeah, it kind of speaks to kind of what we can expect for Matt Ryan, I guess. Maybe a little more of the short distance scoring and not a lot of down the field stuff. But that's all right. It's great to be a Colts tight end right now, I think. But a little history lesson for everyone. I've been doing this each week, and we're starting to see a shift. Week 1, there were 20 touchdowns reported on the multiple scores, and 16 out of 20 were through the air. That's 80%. The next week, it was 16 out of 22. That's 72%. Then we shift down to 4 out of 10 in week 3. So the rushers are starting to take over. And it was a limited week, only 10 touchdowns in the multiple TD category last week. But now we rocket up to 27, but we keep that 40% receiving. So, I mean, it doesn't really mean too much, but if you're looking at, should I flex a wide receiver or should I flex a running back? These running backs are really starting to pop off with their rushing touchdowns now, getting multiples in a game. The defensive linemen are starting to get tired, maybe make mistakes, and really open up some rushing game. So that's something to keep in mind if you're just trying to decide how to handle that flex situation. So yeah, a couple big surprising names added to the multi-TD this week. And this is a long segment because there's so many guys on here, but I'll go with the surprise names first. Jamal Agnew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mentioned the Mo Alley Cox. Let's see. Daniel Jones putting 2 on the ground. Kenny Pickett, we already discussed, 2 on the ground.
Did you see that that stat? The most rushing first downs by a quarterback since 2004, and it was like Mike Vick with 20, Daniel Jones was second with 18, and then it was Cam Newton, and you're just like, what the
Dude.
fucking Daniel Jones is spitting in there with Mike Vick? Like,
That's
It's
great.
wild.
yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me. He's bringing the khakis energy, man. But rolling on from there, we've got some guys that it took them a while to get up and going, but now they're in a big way. That's T.J. Hawkinson's got double TDs. Finally,
Right after I trade for Kittle.
yeah.
Makes sense.
Well, you know what happens. Every once in a while, there's a situation where Amon-Ra St. Brown and DJ Chark and DeAndre Swift just aren't in the game.
Yeah.
And it's like 2019 or 2020 Hawkinson all over again, where he's the only name in town, and he lived up to that name. So it's good to see it. Mike Evans doubled up. I love that. Big fans of Me 13. That's right. It's a joke on the TB12 thing. But okay, well then, who am I missing? How about the guys that we've been waiting years for? Really, you got Miles Sanders. You got Josh Jacobs on here. J.K. Dobbins coming back. Fierce, loving the rain. Really enjoying a rain game for himself. And yeah, I think I touched on Rashad
Austin
Penny.
Eckler.
Oh yeah, Austin Eckler. I was saving him as a build-up.
Oh.
3 touchdowns? No. He was supposed to go in there after Mike Evans before I switched to the guys we've been waiting years for. But yeah, okay. Austin Eckler, man. 3 touchdowns. He, all of a sudden, I know me and you were kind of like, why are you drafting him so high? And I'm still there, especially the way things are going with the Chargers. But then he goes and scores 3 touchdowns. And so, by the numbers, he's looking pretty strong right now. But
it was definitely his best day on the ground, too. 4.6 yards per carry. He was averaging under 3 coming into this week. So that was kind of my thing, is like, even if he was scoring, he wasn't very efficient. So once you took the scoring away, what do you have? But now, when he has 3 touchdowns and 4.6 yards per carry, it's hard to argue with.
Yeah, I'm still going to argue with it, man.
Me too.
It's in division for me. I gotta be a little gruff. Don't give these guys any kind of credit for what they've done. Undrafted free agent. Here he goes, just kicking ass. And nope, no love from me. Sorry, pal. Way to do it. But yeah, you guys. I mean, are you thrilled? Is this exciting? This is the stuff of legend in the fantasy world.
Yeah, it was hilarious. I had Eckler starting with Jonathan Taylor, and Jonathan Taylor got hurt. And I was like, oh, damn, this was my week. It's my week to really pop off, and it didn't happen.
Oh, I'm sorry,
That's
man.
all right. At least Tom Brady got you a garbage time victory there.
That's true. Suck it, hacker.
Woo!
When you win by half a point.
It's like a point and a half.
Is it really winning, though? I mean, come on.
Yeah, hell yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Hell yeah, W is a W. No one's going to remember that margin. Well, should we just get straight into the targets? You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Let's do it.
Talk about our target friends. Okay, dokie. Let me start at the top. Okie dokie. Well, it was a pretty exciting week. We had 27 players with 8 or more targets in week 4. One of them was a running back. And it was Christian McCaffrey. So let's all get excited to hear that. It's been a long time. It's first time on the list. Glad to see the Panthers are figuring out that he can catch the ball,
Yeah, but now they seem to be trapped in this weird thing where they think he can't do both, because then they only gave him 8 carries as well. So it's like, cool, man. You just don't use your best player. Yeah. That's fine.
No,
it's fine.
They'll figure by the time they all lose their jobs, they'll have it figured out. It'll be beautiful.
Matt Rule's post-firing speech is just going to, I probably should have played McCaffrey more. Like, yeah, no fucking shit.
Yeah.
Like,
I didn't know DJ Moore was on the team until like week 12.
Man, this DJ Moore guy is pretty good.
I never even heard of DJ Moore. Anyway, actually, he's on the list. Woo!
Hey!
Yeah, DJ Moore got 11 targets. So let me just get focused. Let me refocus my etiquette here. No, it's not you. It's me. It's not me. It is definitely me. All right. Me 13. He's on the list. All right. So 5 tight ends on the list this week, and his 21 wide receivers. So let's get back in there. Let's keep the records. Let me read from the top to the bottom. Reviewing last week, there were 8 players that had gotten 8+ targets in all 3 weeks. 7 of those players didn't make the cut this week. There is only one. There is only one remaining. And I'm going to have to not give him a gold star, but I'll give him a pewter, metallic silver colored star because it's CeeDee Lamb. So good job. Good job, CeeDee Lamb. Good job, AJ, for drafting CeeDee Lamb.
Yay.
It doesn't help. It doesn't help. But all right, there's 8 new guys on this list, and it's kind of a shocker, man. It's kind of a weird one. So TJ Hawkinson's on the list. We kind of mentioned it was a ghost town in Detroit. I've already talked about a couple of these other guys. DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey are on the list here for the first time. And then you've got 3 Bucks. You got Godwin, Mike Evans, and Cameron Brate. So that's pretty extreme for me to have that many Bucks on. Like, what happened in this game? Oh, the team had 6 carries for 3 total yards. So they
That'll
had to
do
do it through the air. Yeah. It's looking like Giselle got the Bucks run game in the negotiations. You know what I'm saying? But George Pickens is on the list. First timer, man. The young men just doing it well, man. I love it. Love to see that. He was joined by rookie Romeo Dobbs. Not a first timer, but them's the rookies holding it down this week. Let's see who else we got here. Oh, Alan Lazard's on there. So he got 8 targets and caught 6 of them for 116 yards. It's pretty exciting stuff, man. So, yeah, the 7 guys that have been on this list all season that dropped off this week were a couple of heartbreakers, man. You got A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra, who didn't even play. Curtis Samuel, it was like a whole thing. He drops off. Deontay, could be a story of what's to come. You got Garrett Wilson, obviously he was doing a little better with Joe Flacco. Maybe they can work all that stuff out. Also hear that maybe Joe will be back. There's speculation on the injury. Speculation.
I like that.
I'm going for it. Jamar Chase and then Stephon Diggs all falling off the list this week. So, hey, it's all good. It's all good. Let me get back to reality. But I don't know. I don't know what you guys want to say. This is pretty exciting. A lot of targets going on. The big names, the big winners, the huge workloads were Cooper Kupp. He had 19 targets.
Whew.
Yeah. Tyler Higbee had 14. Tyreek, Devante Adams, Justin Jefferson, like these guys are 13, 14 targets. And then, it kind of whittles down and that's about it. But I don't know. These guys, they're going out there playing some good ball, kicking ass, taking names. I think I'm starting to track who's done it 3 out of the 4 weeks, but it feels like it's a little weird, a little wordy to get into all of that right now. But I'm going to start tracking guys on multiple weeks. I got it all here. Maybe in the future, I don't think we're going to have, it's just CeeDee Lamb with the every week. So we're going to have to go to the all but 1 week pretty soon. So be ready for that. Keep your clocks dialed in. But yeah, it's pretty exciting. I mean, shit. It's all kind of like game script dependent this week. It's very, very interesting.
Awesome.
A lot of weird stuff going on this week. Interesting results and like players not really popping the way you think they would, and yeah, target distribution going all over the place. But it is exciting. Yeah.
Well, and then it's kind of meaningless too. Like DJ Moore gets on this list for the first time, but he still only had 12 fantasy points. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
oh boy, don't I know it.
it's like workload is only as good as its source. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway.
Absolutely. That
Well-
efficiency's got to go up.
We got the targets in. Should we move on to the running backs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do the whoas.
You got it.
All right. You mentioned him earlier. Rashad Penny just crushed Kenneth Walker in opportunities. 18 total, 17 carries, one target compared to Walker's 9, 8 carries and one target. Did you guys know that Geno Smith has more rushing attempts than Kenneth Walker?
Not
17
surprised.
to 15. Don't love that. This is not a competition to me at the moment where I kind of thought it would be. It may have been, except that you give Penny 17 carries and he goes off for 151 yards and two scores. So I think if you're a Penny owner, although, injury report tonight, he sat out of practice. So that kind of constant nagging part of Penny's career might be rearing its ugly head again. But as long as he's playing, man, just ride Penny. Don't worry about Walker until you see it happen, because right now this is not close.
I'm glad to hear that, man.
Yeah?
I mean, I got Gino and I got Penny,
Oh,
and I started
okay.
both of them. I'm ready to roll. I'm ready to roll.
There
Now,
you go.
Kenneth Walker, you got this. Outside zone runner. Maybe they'll get to you.
Eventually. They're gonna have to. You can't spend a second
Absolutely.
round pick on him
Absolutely.
and not. Speaking of second round pick running backs, Brees Hall. 23 opportunities compared to Michael Carter's 12, so he almost doubles him. It had been a pretty even split up until this point, but now that's a true workhorse split. That's a three down running back with a sub coming in to spell him occasionally. We all saw it coming from Brees Hall, obviously. Um, the hope is now that Carter doesn't just get regulated to this share from here on out. But I think it's safe to say that you can start starting Brees Hall on a weekly basis.
You think this has had anything to do with the Zach Wilson coming back? Or
Um,
it was time?
I just think it was time. I think it was going to happen eventually, and maybe giving Zach Wilson the more polished runner and the kind of like more hard nosed player makes sense. Like surround Wilson with as much talent as humanly possible to make him not have to do it all on his own. But I do just think it was time because last week was the first week that Hall overtook Carter in opportunities anyway, and
Right.
that was without Zach Wilson playing. And so I think this was just a natural progression. I just hope Carter starts seeing more, at least work in the receiving game, because that's the part where he can still thrive and still be useful for you. But with Brees Hall taking 6 targets, which Carter only got 3 or 4, that could make Carter almost useless fantasy wise. He's still a good player, still help the Jets out, but if Hall is going to be taking that much of the target share and that much of the workload on the ground, Carter's not going to be worth much unless Hall gets hurt.
Yeah, and I feel you, man. That whole team kind of took a step back in the passing game usage. Obviously, Garrett Wilson had been on
Mm-hmm.
the target kind of talk the whole time, and we're looking at the attempts. 36 there for Zach Wilson, whereas Flacco was in the 50s twice, 44 at a minimum. So the fireworks, man, they were bright in the big
Mm-hmm.
city, but could be coming back down to a slower pace.
But it could just be ramping up Zach Wilson off of injury too, and not trying to throw the entire game plan at him and make him throw it 50 times a game.
True
Um,
that.
but who knows? Wasn't great to see for Wilson or Carter, but Brees Hall definitely helped him out. So maybe Zach Wilson um, is your favorite player if you're a Brees Hall fan. Because if we're going to keep seeing work out of Brees Hall like this, I think you should be excited. Next up, the Eagles gave Miles Sanders his career high in carries with 27. And I think what they're proving is that if Miles Sanders is on a good team that's playing with the lead, he can absolutely be a weapon for you in fantasy. He's the RB9 on the year so far. He's averaging 16.3 points per game. A lot of that did come this week. I do grant you that, but that's kind of my whole point is that the Eagles are good. They're playing with a lead. and they're using Miles Sanders more than he's ever been used before, and he's providing for them. So I think Miles Sanders is a good lock. I mean, we haven't really heard much about Kenny Gainwell or really any of the other Eagles running backs. It's all been Miles Sanders. So I think you can pretty much ride with him at this point.
I don't know. Trey Sermon coming out there with the 9.5 yards per attempt.
I guess that's fair.
On 2 attempts. Yeah, no, you'd love to see that. It's like, who could fail the way that team's set up, man? With the way Jalen Hurts is playing and the downfield passing game, like
they look
that,
monstrous.
There's what are you gonna do? Great O line. It's like, fuck,
Yeah,
here we go.
it's probably gonna take some injuries or some somebody figuring out how to stop Jalen Hurts. That's going to be the only way you stop the Eagles right now, because that defense is too good, and as well as the offensive line, and they're just going to bully people to the playoffs for sure.
Man, it's looking good for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Who else is looking good for? CEH is far and away the RB1 in Kansas City. Not really something that I was expecting this year. I know I was pretty harsh on CEH and talking about the Chiefs need to move on, and they're doing anything but. He's at 55 opportunities for the run for Kansas City. The next closest running back to him is Pacheco with 28. Pacheco also has 0 targets. So CEH is absolutely crushing it. CH is on the field 45% of the running back snaps, and he has himself 15 targets. So they are using him like they should have been when he got drafted, and everyone was super excited for him. So I don't necessarily know that I'm buying into him being like some kind of RB1 for the foreseeable future, but there is no challenge to him in Kansas City right now. So if you are a CEH owner, I think you can be comfortable knowing that you have an RB1, at least on paper, on your squad.
Yeah, they were pretty vocal about their opinions, and that having Pacheco there as a threat to CH's workload and the 5th-year option and all that potential, those long term has really lit a fire under his keister, and now we're seeing, and I'm like, that's what I mean. I love the narratives, but he's just out there playing good ball, and he looks unstoppable, man. He looks like a completely different player. Not even like his college self. He looks like a completely different guy now. It's awesome.
He looks really, really good. Got credit where credit is due for sure. But that's it for my woes. Good woes, positive woes. Woes.
Woes. Now time for the
woes. A guy who was a woe, who is now a woe. Stevenson, Ramondre Stevenson. Yeah. I gave him this love last week. He was dominating this snap percentage. And then this week, Damian Harris out-touches him. He didn't out-opportunity him. Damian Harris has 18 carries and a target. Stevenson has 14 carries and 5 targets. So he ends up with more opportunities and still a better snap percentage. But his snap percentage went from 41% split to 25 with Damian Harris to this week it was 32 to 26. And still no other running back took a snap. Which
weird.
Pure strong truthers like me are hurting a little bit that he can't even see the field. But B, I thought Ramondre had kind of taken over, and now he kind of came back to the pack a little bit, which is weird for a team that's always been their weaknesses on defense is stopping the run. And I just think Stevenson's a better pure runner than Harris. And then you take him out and then can't push the ball downfield to get a field goal in overtime. And I didn't think that was a coincidence. I don't know, man. I just thought that Stevenson had already kind of locked it in, and it almost seems like Bill heard me and wanted to throw everybody back off the scent. So he threw Harris in there. Still just not what you want to see after a week like last week. You kind of want to see that trend continue and know that a snap percentage like he saw last week wasn't a fluke. And so now we're just kind of up in the air again on whether or not it was a fluke or not. So,
I don't know.
uh, moving on to, or did you have something?
No. Just
Oh,
the Pats, dude. Anyway.
yeah, they're frustrating. Speaking of a former Pat, well, I guess we're not, but a former Pat's friend, Leonard Fournette had a tough game. You already mentioned it. I was making a joke about him, Tom Brady. It wasn't a good segue. Uh,
Gotcha. I get it now.
yeah. Leonard Fournette, as you mentioned it at the top, they only ran the ball 6 times, so that's kind of hard to track anyway. Leonard Fournette goes 3 carries for -3 yards. So just not great, but that's not really what I want to talk about because that game got away from them quick and they just kind of abandoned the run. But what I do want to talk about with Fournette is that in week 3, Leonard Fournette was on the field for 59 snaps, which was 91% of the RB workload that week.
Okay.
In week 4, he dropped to 61%, all the way from 91%. And Rashad White jumped all the way up to 38%. And I don't think that's a coincidence when you look at the fact that the Bucks are 30th in rushing attempts, 31st in rushing yards, 29th in touchdowns, 30th and 30th in yards per carry. I think it's time for a change in Tampa, and I think it's right now. If you're going to try to trade for Rashad White, I think you need to do it now because I think his snap percentage is just going to start climbing from here on out because I think they even realize they need to change. Fournette's just not getting it done.
Well, should we pause for trade offers?
Yeah, fuck it.
I feel like that's going to be a thing eventually. I feel like we're already there. But
Yeah,
man,
I just go ahead.
that's kind of that was our hype, man. We were ready for this, so it's this kind of a sad Bucks deal going on, but let it be, let
Yeah.
it be.
No, 100%. And now I think is the time to get him because even though he did get that increase in percentage, he didn't really like pop off. So a lot of people maybe aren't still high on him. So you may be able to trade him out from under somebody relatively cheap still, if they're not paying close enough attention. Another unfortunate week. James Robinson only carried the ball 8 times in this week's loss to Philly. Um, you know, it only 29 yards as well and no targets. This would be far more concerning to me if it wasn't against Philly, who's just been shutting down running backs all year. And especially because ETN only had 8 carries and 1 target as well. So it wasn't like there was some huge flop between ATN and Robinson. They both kind of stayed 50-50. And now James Robinson and ETN both get to play the Texans, who are allowing like the most fantasy running points to running backs ever. And so this next week will really be a good determinator for James Robinson. I think he's going to have a big week, but he's got to go in the whoa category for this week because that was not a good game.
For sure.
Yeah.
He joins the crew, He joins a long list of guys who were outscored by, Benjamin.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. I tell you what, 5.5 points, 1 target this week. Oh, it was coming. The RB 47 on the season. Wait, no, it's RB 47 on the week. This fucking guy outscored Michael Carter and Devante Williams. Now, you may say he got injured, but that dude had the same snap percentage as he did in week 3, Javante. So it is a thing. Fab darling of the week, Mike Boone. You were outscored by Benjamin, buddy. Kenneth Walker, Jonathan Taylor, Travis Etienne, Zamir White, Naheem Hines, James Robinson, Tony Pollard. Oh my God, the heir apparent Tony Pollard got outscored by Benjamin. Cam Akers, you dead bro. And Zach Moss, growing on the side of a tree, getting outscored by Benjamin. That's it, buddy. That's it.
Damn.
That's tough. Honestly, speaking of Akers, at this point, we should probably stop starting running backs who aren't superstars against Philly or San Francisco. Um, Akers and Henderson both scored less than 10 points, and they had 8 carries and 7 carries, respectively. They just not a lot of traction against these defenses. And so, unless you just have Derrick Henry or Jonathan Taylor, well, he's kind of excluded right now with his slump. Just one of those guys that you can't take out of your lineup. I would think really hard about starting a running back against one of these two teams because they look tough to run the ball against.
Yeah.
And then speaking of Jonathan Taylor, we got to bring him up in the woes. I'm not going to harp on this too much. I'm not worried about Jonathan Taylor. He's obviously sitting out week 5 with an injury, which sucks. But he was the RB24 at this point last season. He's one of those guys, he just gets a slow start every year, and then he ends up in the top 10. So I'm not really worried about him yet, but it is worth a mention. I probably should have mentioned him the past couple weeks on the woes, WOE woes. So, throwing him in there, but I'm not worried at all about Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
That's good for you, dude. I'm not worried. Shit.
So
worried.
Is it time?
Yeah, dude. I like that. You're ready.
I'm ready, man.
He's ready.
Listen, guys. I'm brimming with glee to show you what I've discovered here today. This is a conspiracy theory the likes of RDR, nay, the fantasy community, has ever seen. Everything I'm about to mention, they are facts. I've only connected the dots for you folks. We had 3 quarterbacks debut in their first 2022 regular season game, 2 against each other. Zach Wilson comes out. He was picked number 2 overall in the 2021 draft to the New York Jets out of BYU. Versus, or should I say went to war with, Kenny Pickett, picked round 1 by the Pittsburgh Steelers out of Pittsburgh. He came in after Trubinsky continued to suck a bag of hoopla. As mentioned, these 2 waged war Sunday. I bring that up because we know there's a history between the NFL and the military. The origin of the word hut, as in hiking the ball. This came from a cadence that quarterbacks adopted from a military cadence back in World War II. Most famously, the classic hut, 2, 3, 4, hut, 2, 3, 4. Zach Wilson, pick number 2, jersey number 2. Hut, 2, 3, 4. Interestingly enough, there's a chance Zach Wilson could go to war with division quarterback Bailey Zappi, who also made his 2022 regular season debut. Bailey Zappi picked round 4 to the New England Patriots out of Western Kentucky. He got the nod after quarterback Brian Hoyer went into concussion protocol. Bailey Zappi picked round 4. Number 4, Hut, 2, 3, 4. Oh, well, what happened to Kenny Pickett? Well, let me tell you. Picked round 1, Hut, 2, plus 3, plus 4, minus picked round 1, drafted, when he was drafted, equals 8. Kenny Pickett's jersey number, 8.
Oh, my goodness.
Now that I've connected these quarterbacks, follow me into the abyss here. Let's use this upcoming war of possibly Zach Wilson versus Bailey Zappi to predict a future war. These 2 would be scheduled to play October 30th, 2022. Remember that date. Zach Wilson, BYU University, known for their Mormonism, the Mormon religion, founded April 6th, 1830. Now take the year Mormonism was founded, 1830, subtracted by 6. The date, April 6th, gives us 1824. Bailey Zappi attended Western Kentucky University, located in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Bowling Green. Bowling, related to a turkey. A turkey is when you bowl 3 strikes in a row. A strike is represented by an X. A turkey equals 3 X's. XXX. What's illegal in Kentucky? Marijuana. XXX green. 420. Blaze it. Now take the year Mormonism was founded, 1830, subtracted by 6. The date, April 6th. Now subtract XXX green 420. You have 1404. Coming up this Monday is Columbus Day, or Indigenous People Day. Could go either way considering Columbus waged war upon the native people of this land. 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. 1404 minus 1492 equals negative 88. Columbus, well, that is also the home of Ohio State University. 2021 draft, minus 88 picks. Trey Sermon is drafted.
Oh.
Hut 2, 3, 4. Hut 2, 3, 4. The current number worn by running back of the Eagles, Trey Sermon. Zappy versus Wilson, October 30th. Kenny Pickett versus the Philadelphia Eagles, October 30th, 2022. Kenny Pickett wages war on Trey Sermon. Trey Sermon breakout game, October 30th, 2022. You heard it here first.
Woo! Damn, there ain't enough tinfoil in this whole hat.
Did that one for you, baby.
That was amazing, man. Not every day do I get to just smile like this, but today I can't wipe it off. That was truly special.
Those are straight facts, bro. Straight facts.
I love that, dude. I love that. Negative 88.
Yeah.
I was with you the whole time.
I knew you were, man. You felt the vibe.
I'm into it.
So watch out for that. So pick up your Trey Sermons while you can. I know we just talked about Miles Sanders, but it's information, man. I saw it. I saw it in the numbers. I saw it in the matrix. We're good. I got
man.
you.
No, don't waste time. Do what you got to do. You heard it here first.
First.
You definitely heard that here first. Whatever you've heard anywhere, you heard that
All right.
first.
Well, now that I've had my fun and gave you, quite simply, some information that the government doesn't even want you to know, let's go on to our last segment, the Team Change Tracker.
The Team Change Tracker. I like that, man. Well, let's just see if any part of my brain still functions after what just happened here. Let me see if I can read my own notes. We might just make it through. Well, there was a lot of team changing this year. It was like fireworks in the sky and free agency. What is this? Fireworks in the sky? You got me in the war thing. It's the cannon fodder. Oh, my God. He's got me. He did it to me. Okay, so we're just going to track through a couple of these big-name wide receivers. And I even added a tight end just for the spice of variety there. So, I'm going to introduce to you a new face with a new place, and I'm going to give you a little bit of information on how they might be affecting that team in a positive or negative way, and then Christian's going to tell me what the hell their old team did. Were they in shambles? Did they patch the ship? Are they still afloat? So without any further ado, let's go into it. Tyreek Hill, man. Tyreek smelling ill. Reek, I don't know what I'm doing with this. This guy's swimming with the fishes, man, and he's hanging out with a penguin named Waddle, doing a couple of touchdown dances. So he comes into this year, 4 weeks in the book. What's going on with Tyreek? He's got 31 catches. He's got 477 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's pretty impressive, especially if you look at the fact that he has 31% of the team's targets. He's got 39% of the team's receiving yards, and he possesses 32% of this team's total offensive yards. So it's safe to say that he is not really missing a beat on what he was doing last year. It's pretty incredible. I'm going to just do the same format for all the guys, so try to keep up with me. It is impacting the team in a positive way. So this year, 82% of all of the Dolphins' yards are through the air versus 70% last year. So that's the full year. But at a 4-week pace, they have increased the ratio of yards through the air by 12%. That's pretty impressive. Scoring now on the year is they're 9th in scoring, and last year they were 22nd in touchdown pass scoring. So that's a big bump. And then as far as passing yard ranking versus the rest of the league, this year they are 3rd, whereas last year they were 17th. So you're just looking at huge. I shouldn't have started with him because this is a great example of this worked out for them. They paid up big for Tyreek. And it's working out in a huge way. He's making an immediate impact and really just blowing the doors off of the joint. We'll see what happens. Obviously, Tua's injured right now, or concussed, or he's just taking a little bit of time to recover from
It's a back pain.
whatever happened last week or the week before. And so, yeah, but this team's looking phenomenal, and Tyreek is a huge part of it, man. So what's up? How are the Chiefs doing without Tyreek?
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. It's working like gangbusters down in Miami. And when I was doing this segment, pretty easy. You want to look at what the team did differently based on the first 4 weeks of last year and the first 4 weeks of this year. At least you think it's going to be easy, but the Chiefs have to make it hard because none of it makes any goddamn sense. The Chiefs, you would think, oh, maybe they're getting off to a slow start. They lost their superstar wide receiver. Through 4 games, they're averaging 32 points per game, which is 4 points higher than they ended last season with. So you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe they're reeling it back in and their yards per play aren't as much. They're doing a little bit more check down, not as deep. They don't have Hill. Yards per play, 5.9 last year. It's 6 right now. Nothing changed there. All right, well, then you hear yourself go, well, then they got to be running the ball more, right? Because they got to develop that new offense with them. At this point last season, they had 103 rushing attempts. This year, they have 105. So they're not really doing much different in terms of like numbers that you can look at on paper. It's the target distribution that's different, and that's really it. So Tyreek Hill last year had 38 targets going into week 4 or going into week 5, so through week 4. That would be number 1 on the team right now. That's not even mentioning the fact that Travis Kelce is the number 1 target leader on the Chiefs right now with 34. So the next closest wide receiver to what Hill was doing last year is Juju, who has 27 targets. So through the first 4 weeks of 2021, Tyreek Hill had 38, McCole Hardman had 28, Byron Pringle had 12, and Robinson had 8. This year, just going on wide receivers, Juju has 27, MVS has 23, Hardman has 12, and Sky Moore has 5. So it's not really that crazy different. You just have that lead dog last year, obviously, in Hill. So the real jump and the real change for the Chiefs has been the RB targets. Through 4 weeks last season, RBs collectively had 15. This year, CEH has 15 by himself. And Jarrett McKinnon adds in 8 more. So now they're at 23 targets. So Patrick Mahomes has targeted running backs the same amount he's targeted his second wide receiver, MVS, with 23. So that's what they're doing. It's just not hurting them on the efficiency. They're targeting the running backs, but they're still getting yards and they're still scoring points because they're the goddamn Chiefs and they have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. So this one's a little bit weirder. Like it's not really affecting them, and the only thing they're doing differently is just targeting running backs more, it seems like. So the sky's the limit for this Chiefs offense because once one of these wide receivers pops, then they can start rolling back into that. And now we could even see more points or more down the field plays or whatever you want to go for. So the Chiefs are doing fine without Hill. I mean, obviously you'll always miss a player like Hill, but they have found a way to just keep chugging forward. And I mean, the proof's in their record. 3-1.
It's definitely not as cool to watch.
True. That's fair.
But yeah, it is. It's diversified like a motherfucker, man. That's nice. And Clyde, man, he needed to be getting them targets anyway this whole time. So I hear that cheetahs are not like, you get a cheetah in your house, you think it's gonna be cool. All of a sudden, all your Cheetos are gone. People licking their fingers, fucking cheese dust on everything.
Everything, dude. All the couches, your dog. It's just everywhere.
So I'm glad, though. I'm glad he's swimming with the dolphins, man. It's a big deal. So, well, I'm going to move on to the next guy, A.J. Brown. And I want to do a Fresh Prince thing, but I guess he got sent out of Philadelphia, so that doesn't really work here. So I'm just going to start talking about what he's doing on the field. Right now he's got 38 targets, and he's catching 25 of them for 404 yards and 1 touchdown. And so, so far, he's making a pretty good impact on the team. He's got 32% of the team's targets, leading the way there. He's got 36% of the team's receiving yards. He has 27% of the team's total offense and 63% of their yards are through the air this year, which is kind of a big deal for Philadelphia. Last year they were 56, so they're one of the more balanced teams. They like to do it on the ground, but they're making a shift towards the air. You know, that increase is only 7%, but it is that is an increase all the same. And these are total points scored. They are fourth this year versus last year they were 12th. So the whole offense has been more dynamic. But right now through week 4, they're the 6th highest passing offense, whereas last year they finished the year as 25th. So that's a major jump. And it's hard to say that A.J. Brown isn't directly responsible for it, considering, you know, they went from pretty much nothing in the past game, and then Devonta Smith was there. And so the only addition is A.J. Brown, and it's turned it up. It's a whole new Jalen Hurts. These guys are just getting after it. They're undefeated, you know, and they look poised to remain that way for a little while. So it's pretty exciting, man. But like what's going on in Nashville, though?
Not a lot. That's good. The Titans look up and down. They have pulled out a win or two. Are they 2-2? I forget. 1-3 or 2-2. Started off pretty slow. But the question is, what did the Titans do to address losing A.J. Brown? And this was the easiest one to answer, is that they drafted Treylon Burks, because that's exactly what they did with the pick they got for A.J. Brown. So to me, that was their replacement. So we just got to look at how Treylon Burks is doing compared to A.J. Brown through 4 weeks of last season.
Okay.
And it's weirdly similar to me. Well, not to me. It just is weirdly similar. A.J. Brown, through his first 4 games last year, had 25 targets. Treylon Burks is only at 16, so he's got less targets. But efficiency-wise, through 4 games, they're about the same. A.J. Brown last year had 130 yards through 4 games. Treylon Burks has 129. Brown had a touchdown, but just one. Burks doesn't have any. Weirdly, the Titans were also 2-2, so there's my answer there. The only difference here is that Brown last year was leading the team in targets through 4 weeks, whereas Robert Woods is doing that this year. But he just took that over this coming week. So to me, man, like, they really are trying to use Burks almost the exact same way they were using Brown. It just hasn't hit yet. But like you're saying, they got that week 6 bye. They can kind of tweak some things and come back, because that's the part of their offense they need back, and they didn't get that going till through like week 5, week 6 last year either. So that gives me a little more hope for Burks. It doesn't make it seem like it's all on him when you had a guy as good as A.J. Brown kind of getting a slow start with Tennessee last year. So we just got to look, but they're just going to have to keep forcing him the ball. They have to. They traded away Brown for this exact reason. Burks has to work. So they're going to have to keep forcing him the ball, and we're just going to see where it goes. If Burks can have a similar season uptick like Brown did last year, then they're going to be good to go. If he doesn't, Titans could be in some serious trouble.
Yeah, and they don't have much to bail him out. Man, that was clean. I like that. I did not anticipate that Treylon Burks would have a similar first 4 weeks as A.J. Brown. Although
not either.
Historically underutilized and nagging injuries, so a healthy A.J. Brown is definitely a whole new beast.
Oh, for sure. And I do want to point out that any real astute listeners would know that last year A.J. Brown missed week 4. But I was including A.J. Brown's first 4 games, not the game he missed. So.
See, I was anticipating there was a miss in there, so that's hella good clarification. Yeah. For all you astute listeners, I am rounding my percents to the nearest whole number.
Okay.
Straight.
I do that as well, typically.
Got to do it. So there is another, right? This is like the Leia. There is another. Robert Woods is up in Nashville, right?
Yeah.
So he's supposed to be filling that gap. He's supposed to be playing I don't know. I'd say second fiddle to Derrick Henry, but now I'm hearing he's third chair after Treylon, so that's cool. He's kind of showing that. He's only got 20 targets on the year,
Mm-hmm.
13 catches, 167 yards, and a score. And, you look for these new additions to make a big splash. That's only 20% of the team's targets. And you're basically telling me he doesn't have a ton of aggressive competition for those targets at the moment. So
Mm-mm.
a little weird, but 21% of the receiving yards on the team and 14% of the team's total offense. That's kind of a lower number if you're looking back at Tyreek and A.J. Brown. But there are some good things here. Let's see. This year, 64% of the offense is through the air versus a total of 59% in 2021. The scoring rank, though, is 22nd so far this year, whereas they finished the year 15th last year. And then the passing yards, the ranking is 27th in the league right now. And that's not too far off from the 24th that they had last year. But we know this is kind of a run first team.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they were, they weren't maximizing A.J. Brown's potential. I don't know. Doesn't look like they're maximizing the potential here either with Woods or Burke. But, you got to do what you got to do. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. They're definitely trying to find their footing a little bit. I think there's a bit of hesitation to really want to push Henry too hard too early, and then you don't want to
Mhm.
throw the rookie into the fire too early, and then Woods is coming off an injury. So I think the Titans were a little kind of screwed, for lack of a better word, coming into the beginning of this season. But hopefully they can get some traction a little bit. Because yeah, these numbers are telling me that's not going to do it. It's not going to make the Titans an interesting watch for the foreseeable future unless they can turn this around.
Yeah, and I mean, so many of these undertones of struggle and what's next. How do you solve this issue? Remind me of familiar territory for Robert Woods, and that being the Rams team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They seem to
Yeah.
miss him a little bit, huh?
Oh, absolutely they do. Last year through 4 weeks, Robert Woods had 25 targets, firmly cemented behind Cooper Kupp, who had 46. This year, Cooper Kupp has 54 targets through 4 weeks, and Robert Woods' replacement, Allen Robinson, only has 18 for 95 yards. Whereas, like I said, Robert Woods had 25 targets for 172 yards last year.
Whew.
The Rams need a second wide receiver to step up. They were averaging 27 points per game by the end of last season. They're hovering right around 17 right now. Woods may not have been the guy to set the world on fire. Obviously, that was Cooper Kupp, but he was certainly more effective and provided more spark for the offense than Allen Robinson is right now.
For sure.
And it's showing. Stafford's yards per attempt are at 6.8 right now. He finished the season last year at 8.1. The Rams' yards per play even has gone down. Last year, they ended the year with 6 yards per play. They're sitting at 4.7 right now,
Oof.
which is just not going to get it done. They need Allen Robinson to step up, or they need to re-sign Odell Beckham Jr. or do something, man, because as good as Cooper Kupp is, he's they're proving this year that even though he's going to come out and score 30 fantasy points a game, the Rams are not a good team right now. So they need another weapon on that offense. And hopefully it's Allen Robinson, because I think we all loved watching Allen Robinson play when he was uh, crushing it. And I think we all want to see that come back. But right now, it doesn't look so good for LA.
No, man. Yeah, I was watching the broadcast the other day, as I'm sure we all were, prime time, but I was amazed at how many times they brought up Van Jefferson. I'm like, oh
Mm-hmm.
shit. I mean, your team is in a bad way when you're like, man, we're really hurting for Van Jefferson to be out here.
Yeah.
Which obviously I'm a Van fan, but that's not hope
It's
on the
not the way.
horizon.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if we want to talk about what exactly is happening with Allen Robinson and the Rams, He's coming off of 4 weeks now. He's got 18 targets. He's caught 9 of those, 95 yards, and a score. So he's there with 12% of the team's targets, 9% of the team's receiving yards, 7% of the total offense. Just like, interesting. So one thing is with the way the running game's going there, I'm not too surprised to see they're at 77% of the offense through the air versus 73% last year. So they need a little bit more on the ground just to be competitive. But as far as scoring, you kind of mentioned it, man. They're 29th in points scored, whereas they finished the year 7th last year. And then passing yards alone, they're 20th. Last year they finished at 5th. So it's kind of like, I don't know. It's hard to watch. The Rams are so weird, man. I don't know what to say, but when you look at like sad Jalen Ramsey and confused Sean McVay and just the way Matthew Stafford's playing so far.
Befuddled Matthew Stafford, yeah.
It's like, yeah. You can change the shade of blue. No, I'm just joking. It's a fun Detroit joke. But I don't know. I guess this is a stretch, but how is Chicago doing without Allen Robinson?
Poorly.
Okay.
Very poorly. At least through the passing game. The Bears' passing offense is almost non-existent at this point. They targeted wide receivers, plural, 35 times this season. Allen Robinson through 4 weeks last year, even though he had a really shitty season, had 24 targets through 4 weeks. So he's almost got as many targets as the entire Bears wide receiver room right now.
Jesus.
The Bears have obviously been leaning towards their running game more the last 4 weeks. Last year, they were rushing 28 times a game. Right now, they're rushing 34 times a game. So they've obviously just leaned into that part of their offense. It's the part that is making them at least functional at this point. But it's absolutely a wonder that the teams did not bring in another weapon for Justin Fields. They're dead last in passing yards this season. Velus Jones has been a non-factor so far. The only draft pick they took, they had money they could have spent in the offseason. Maybe not a ton of money, but they could have brought in somebody. Darnell Mooney's just absolutely been useless so far. I don't think it's his fault. Darnell Mooney's a good player. I don't want that to come off that way. But just they cannot figure this passing game out. And that's crazy because they looked like ass last year with Allen Robinson. And then everyone thought like, oh, how's it going to get better? Oh, well, they're going to go deep more to Darnell Mooney and they're going to run Justin Fields out more and da-da-da-da. Ain't none of that happened so far. So I don't know what's going on with Chicago. They need to figure some things out. But with that offensive line playing the way it is, Fields playing the way he is, and I don't see it getting better anytime soon.
Yeah, that offense, man. No comments. No comments. Is it okay to just walk right past it?
That's fine.
Pretend I didn't see it struggling over there. Okay. Well, I'm going to throw in the tight end, the first tight end, the only tight end, the only non-wide receiver to be highlighted on this new faces and new places. We got Gerald Everett, man. This is a long-time guy that I've been a huge fan of. So
yeah, it is.
I've finally seen him, become the player that he was meant to be. He moves down the coastline a little ways from Seattle to Los Angeles with the Chargers. That's a pretty good trek. And he's up there doing good things. He's not leading the team in targets by any means, but he does have 26, and he's caught 16 of them for 211 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's pretty nice for a tight end to be 16% team targets and 17% of the receiving yards for the team and 14% of the team's total offensive yards. That's pretty impressive. This team through the air is going with 83% of their total offensive yards. Finished last year at 72%. Kind of goes back to the, is Austin Eckler a running back or not, or what else is going on with the run game. They still haven't quite figured it out. They're going to keep sinking draft picks into it, so they'll get there eventually. But scoring wise, they're 12th this year, finished fifth last year. And passing yards, they are number one. So, and they were number two last year. So it's kind of interesting to see Gerald being a big part of that, especially Keenan Allen missing time. He's kind of helped them maintain, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's awesome to finally see the guy pop for you. I know you have been kind of banging this drum for a while now, and yeah, he looks great. He looks, especially with all the injuries that the Chargers have right now, I think they're really happy that they got him in the offseason.
Yeah, man, I would be too. Banging that Gerald Everett drum. So I guess Seattle doing anything without him? Or?
Um, Seattle is taking the approach to replace Everett with multiple people. Noah Fant and Will Dissly are kind of combining at tight end to replace Everett, and they're doing a pretty good job actually. Through 4 weeks last season, tight ends in Seattle only had 15 targets. Not even all of that was Everett, just total. This year they have 30 targets in the tight end room. Will Dissly's already amassed 116 yards and 3 touchdowns in 2021. Everett finished with 478 and 4 touchdowns. Noah Fant hasn't really caught on as much, but 56 yards and a touchdown. He only has one fewer target than Dissly, though. So if that efficiency ever catches on, obviously Dissly's been there a little longer, so he knows the offense more. If Fant can catch on, it may be this kind of dual threat tight end that they're running, along with their two pretty good wide receivers out there. So yeah, they're not really relying on one guy at this point. Dissly has 11 targets and Fant has 10. So yeah, they're using both these guys to kind of replace what Everett did last year, and I actually think it's working better for them than it did just relying on Everett last year.
Yeah, it's definitely working out better for them. And a two tight end, the 1-2 punch is probably the way to go anyway, unless you got a superstar out there, which
Yeah.
obviously they had last year. They just weren't making it work. So, but right on. Well, I'm going to move to Jacksonville with Christian Kirk. That was the big drop in the bucket that sent the ripples throughout the whole league. And, he brings he's got that big cat energy now. Went from in the cage to out there in the wild. I don't know. He was a Cardinal and now he's a Jaguar. So that's an upgrade. So right now he's got the 36 targets going his way. 20 of them were caught for 327 yards and 3 touchdowns. So those are some bigger numbers than the past
Yeah.
few guys we've been listening to. So 29% of the team's targets, 35% of the receiving yards, 24%, a quarter of that total offense going through him. And as far as offensive yards through the air as a percentage of total yards, they're pretty much in line with where they were at last year, 67%. It was 66. But the scoring is a huge difference, right? Right now they're the 7th highest scoring team, whereas they were dead last year. So he's definitely had his presence felt. I'm pretty sure Doug Peterson's presence is being felt there as well. And as far as like passing yards, they're 18th in the league, whereas they finished 22nd in the league last year. So that is an uptick. I think that there is a lot of excitement and a lot of good things coming out of Christian Kirk. I mean, Zay Jones obviously helping out as well. But I think there's more to come, and this is a great start. I think it has a lot more potential. Trevor Lawrence up and down, maybe he can become a little more stable.
Yeah. I think as much fun as the world had with the whole Christian Kirk signing and the money that was attached to it, I think a lot of us were pretty high on that signing with Trevor Lawrence and Kirk's ability down there, and it's nice to see it actually paying off and making sense because he looks good. He looks really, really good down there.
Hell yeah, man. But is Arizona going to be okay without him or what?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's hard. They were 7-0 last year.
Forgot about
They're
that.
they're not this year. They don't look as good. Christian Kirk was their slot receiver last year, led them in slot percentage and slot targets, every single thing you could. Rondale Moore kind of figured to take over that role coming into this year, but he's been hurt for the first 3 weeks, and then last week he finally gets some playing time. doesn't really do anything with it. So the responsibility is kind of fallen on Greg Dortch. And he's doing an admirable job. He has 204 yards and a touchdown this season through the air. Christian Kirk had 244 yards through 4 weeks, so he's only 40 yards behind what Kirk was doing.
Interesting.
There may be a real no shit battle for the slot receiver room in Arizona between Moore and Dortch. I know Moore obviously has the draft capital, but I mean Dortch is kind of producing, so you might as well kind of at least find a way to use him occasionally, even when Moore comes back, and especially if Moore doesn't pop. Like he, he kind of struggled to be consistent last year, and if that continues to happen, it may be time to roll the Dortch.
Roll the Dortch.
Yeah.
I love that, dude. Man, and plus you've got like the dual tight end possibility with
McBride and Hurts.
So it's like, man, something's gonna happen. You got old PEDs McHopkins coming back in a couple of weeks.
AJ Green still exists.
Green. And then obviously big lights in Hollywood from a Raven to a Cardinal. Bird transformation. How's he doing? How's he flying? Well, so far he's gotten 45 targets and caught 30 of them, 339 yards and 2 scores. Surprisingly, man, 45 targets, that's a big number. Only 27% of the team targets, they're throwing the ball around a lot. But he is a 34% receiving yards, so and 23% of the team's offense, which is a pretty good number. But we know last year, you mentioned it, 7-0, pretty dynamic. They're right in line with that, 68% of their offense through the air, 67 last year. Scoring-wise, they're a little lower, 14th this year versus 11th last year. And then passing ranking, like total yards here, we're at 15th, where they were 10th last year. And you got a no-name in the slot, obviously making a name for himself. Zach Ertz still doing great. And then Hollywood, but without Hopkins and without a really established number 2 in this offense, I think they're doing pretty well, and Hollywood's representing a kind of a lifesaver out there for him, especially with James Conner's not really doing all the things he was doing last year. And so I think they're keeping it on the between the ditches, as the kids say. So
yeah, I gotta say this is probably the most surprising one to me. I just felt like this had the makings of the trade that was going to fall on its face the hardest, and I just I was just wrong about it. I wasn't a believer in the Cardinals, and then Hollywood Brown coming up, it was a weird transition out of Baltimore to me. It just felt like it was going to fall off the rails, but you're right. He's kind of kept them relevant in a lot of these games and kind of been a key to making their offense work.
Hell yeah. Now, is it still going all right in Baltimore?
I'd say it's going all right if they could just keep a lead. Which, can we just real quick pause? Like, the one team on earth that I would expect to be able to play with the lead is the fucking Baltimore Ravens. Why are they blowing double-digit leads 2 times this year? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. But I digress. Through 4 weeks last year, Brown was the leading wide receiver on the Ravens. He had 28 targets, and he finished the season as their number 1 wide receiver in targets. The Ravens have compensated for the loss of Brown by targeting their wide receivers far less often through 4 weeks. Through 4 weeks last year, the Ravens had 75 wide receiver targets. This year, they're at 48.
Wow.
Which was a huge drop off. And all those targets are being funneled towards the tight ends. Most of the targets, all those targets are going towards the tight ends. Last year, they had 29 targets through 4 weeks for tight ends. This year, they're at 49. So they're just jumping up, targeting Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews alone has 11 more targets than he did through 4 weeks last season. And then you bring in the addition of Isaiah Likely, and he's starting to kind of catch on. That's how the Ravens have been handling it. They're running the ball and targeting these tight ends more, and not really relying on the wide receivers as much. And it's honestly paying dividends. because Duvernay looks good, Bateman looks good, and obviously Mark Andrews is setting the world on fire right now. So it's working pretty well for them. I think taking the pressure off these wide receivers to provide Lamar with those places to go with the ball has really benefited this young pass catching group.
Hell yeah, we need some more consistency out of Rashad Bateman. That's
Yeah,
what
we do.
I'm hearing.
Hmm.
I think that's what you were just saying, right?
A little
Like
bit.
WT the fuck, man. Give us a break. Okay, all right. Speaking of breaks, AJ, I see you're sweating over there. I'll turn the fan on for you with some hot shit right here.
Let's go.
We got Devante Adams, baby.
Woo!
Woo!
Heard of this guy? Spelled his name lately? All right. He's in Las Vegas with the Raiders. And, that's pretty cool. It's a nice place to be. He's got 47 targets, 26 catches for 290 yards, and 3 scores. Yeah, 3 scores is a hot number on this list. So that's 32% of the team's targets, 28% of the receiving yards, and 19% of the team's total offense. At this point in the year, they are putting up 68% of the yards through the air, where last year they were at 74%. The scoring, they're 10th this year versus 18th overall last year. And then the passing yard ranking, they are 14th this year, whereas it was 6th last year. And so there's a couple of Joshes, right? Josh McDaniels, Josh Jacobs. You get what we think is the best wide receiver in the league, maybe Stephon Diggs. But Devante Adams is here with his college quarterback, Derek Carr. They were lighting it up last year in Las Vegas, just like making things happen through the air. The run game wasn't really a thing. And we think, what's going to happen? Who's going to win? A New England style coach or, top wide receiver in the league? Is it going to go passing? Is it going to go rushing? And Josh Jacobs has just looked good. I think that's a more comfortable thing for Josh McDaniels. And so, as far as like the ultra utilization of Devante Adams, I think that's something that's going to develop maybe in more competitive games. But right now, they're able to pull it off kind of without having to overutilize them. That's what I'm seeing. But,
Yeah, but they're still relying on him pretty heavily. I mean, 47 targets. You said that's pretty wild. It's more than he had through 4 weeks last season. It's more than Hollywood Brown has
yep.
right now. And I think, I mean, you have to. That's why you trade for him. That's why you pay him all that money because he is the best receiver in the league, in my opinion. I know I'm not allowed to say that because we must love Diggs on this podcast, but
Yeah, I mean, the most targets on this list for sure. So
yeah, it's crazy, and yeah, I'm with you though. I think it'll come, and I think it'll become more efficient because 45 targets with 26 catches is a weird number for somebody like Adams, a guy, especially considering that saw a stat today that him and Hollywood Brown have the most targets with no drops through the first 4 weeks of this season.
wow.
So he has 26 catches on 47 targets, and he hasn't dropped a pass. I don't know. Maybe you can read between the lines and pick up what might be going on there.
Read between the
But
offensive line, like the defense is doing.
so I do think they're going to pick it up with Adams, and maybe he becomes more efficient and more consistent. But he's already crushing it. So I don't know how much more you can get out of him. But I am with you. I think down the road this will kind of develop a little more.
Hell yeah. Well, they doing all right in Wisconsin.
Yeah, we're doing all right over in Titletown.
Whoa.
Losing Devante Adams obviously going to be huge. As I already said, through 4 weeks last season, Devante Adams had 45 targets. Romeo Dobbs is leading the Packers right now with 24. So 21 targets less than what Devante had through 4 weeks last year. Here's the difference for Green Bay. Last year through 4 weeks, Green Bay had two wide receivers with double-digit targets, Devante Adams and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Both those men are gone right now, and the Packers now have doubled that double-digit target to 4. 4 players right now have double-digit targets. That's Romeo Doubs, Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, and Christian Watson. All 4 of these guys have at least 10 targets or more. And, that's kind of exactly what we expected to happen through the beginning of the year for Rodgers. He's going to start distributing the ball more, finding out what he has in these rookies, relying more on people like Lazard and Cobb. He's targeting his running backs more often. They're up 10 targets from where they were through 4 weeks last year. However, this has not led to a more score-friendly offense yet. Last year, their points per game were at 26 is what they ended with. This year, through 4 weeks, they're at 19, which is not great for an Aaron Rodgers-led offense, but, they're kind of relying on the defense, relying on just getting exactly what they need to beat these other teams. They are 3-1 for a reason, but their passing yards per game, that's also down by 20 yards this season so far. Just it's not working the way it did, but again, we all kind of expected this. We all expected Rodgers to kind of figure it out, figure out who he can rely on, use the running game and the running backs more, and then just rely on the defense to keep him in games. And so far, hey, I think if you asked any Packers fan after trading Devante Adams, how would you feel being 3-1 and having a win over Tampa Bay to start the year? I think we'd all be ecstatic about that. I would love to see this offense become more efficient, get into the 20 points per game, right around 24, I think would be really, really nice for this team right now if we could kind of get it up to that point. But I think they're going to be fine. They're looking good. Dobbs is coming alive. Watson looks electric, even though they haven't been really getting him involved. And, dude, honestly, low-key MVP, Randall Cobb is just making important catches every single week. He doesn't have a ton of catches every single week, but just third downs, long catches to move drives, all this stuff. Cobby's doing it, and I think that's the way Rodgers likes it right now.
Love it, dude. Love that corn cob. Got to do what you got to do. 2 Bs every time.
And they're probably winning the division, aren't they?
No. All right. Well, just before this gets ugly in the North, I'm gonna give a little teaser. Come back for our sequel when Amari Cooper gets a quarterback and Dallas figures out if any of their players are still healthy. So that'll be the sequel to this segment. But man, I'm all week 4'd out. I think we hit it and quit it. Dude. What do you guys, departing remarks?
The Vikings are winning the North.
All right, that's bullshit. Let's lay it.
I have to hold on to it for as long as I can. As long as I can.
All right. Well,
yeah. Got all excited about getting a win with 3 penalties to get you a touchdown there at the end of the game. But, it's whatever. That only matters when Green Bay does it, right? I forgot.
Hey.
I forgot. We can't mention
How'd you like that game, London?
No, the Vikings look good. They came back. It's going to be tough. I mean, they already beat us once.
Damn right.
I'm just saying, I need it, man.
Hey, pick up your Trey Sermons.
I need that Ravens-Vikings Super Bowl.
You heard it here first.
That would be
a good uniform matchup.
Purple.
Green. Right, if you wear the more black uniforms with the purple accents and the Vikings go full purple. I'd like that.
Nice.
All right, we're out.
See ya.
Peace.